Hey everyone, Miss Wares here. We're coming up to the end of the 9 weeks and I want to review some of those newer concepts we've been talking about. Let's start with time signature. The top number, as you know, is going to tell us how many beats are in each measure. It can be literally any number. That bottom number is going to tell us which type of note is going to receive the beat. Take a look at these examples. Up at the top we have 4/4 time, which means 4 beats in the measure. The quarter note receives the beat. We see this one a lot. You can also have different numbers on the bottom, such as 8, which means that the 8th note receives the beat, or even a 2, which means that the half note receives the beat. These time signatures are important because they're going to change the length of some of our rhythms. A rhythm is a different combination of notes and or rest. So let's review some of our rhythms in 4/4 time. Here we have our whole note and our whole rest. Each of these are going to take up 4 beats. Here's what a measure of each of those are going to look like. As you can see, there's only one in the measure because it takes up all 4 beats. Moving on to our half notes and our half rest, these take up 2 beats. Those measures there, you can see you can have 2 of those half notes or half rest or one of each. Our quarter notes and our quarter rest are going to take up 1 full beat. So here's what those measures would look like. As you can see, they're going to line up right with the click of our metronome, right with that beat. Our 8th notes and our 8th rest, as you can see, only have 1 flag. This is what they look like by themselves, but our 8th notes, sometimes you'll see them in combinations of 2 or 4. As you can see, we still know that these are 8th notes because there's only 1 beam on the top connecting those different notes. Our 16th notes, on the other hand, are going to have 2 flags. You can see here our 16th note, our 16th rest have 2 little flags there. And when they're beamed together, they're usually in groupings of 4. That's what a full beat would look like. And there's going to be 2 beams on the top because those flags connect all together. And a full measure of 16th notes or 16th rest, there would be 16 of them total. If there's 4 in one beat, multiply that by 4 beats and you have 16. So that's a quick review of our different rhythms. We also talked about the notes on the keyboard. Remember, the white keys are just the musical alphabet in order from left to right. To find your C, you're going to look for the grouping of 2 black keys and look directly to the left. That's where the C is always going to be located. From there, when you move to the right on the keyboard, you're going to go forwards in the musical alphabet. It's also going to go higher in pitch and higher on the staff. When you go to the left, it's going backwards in the musical alphabet, getting lower in pitch and lower on the staff. As you can see, my black keys are where most of my sharps and my flat notes live. A sharp is going to raise the pitch by a half step, where a flat is going to lower the pitch by a half step. Let's take a look at a few of those examples. So here I have my C. When I move up the keyboard a half step to the right, it's going to go to this black key right here. That is going to be called our C sharp. It got raised by a half step. If I started on my D and I wanted to go down the keyboard to the left, it's going to be on that exact same note, but it's going to be labeled D flat because it was lowered by a half step. Now, how can that one note on the keyboard be C sharp and D flat? Well, this is called inharmonics. An inharmonic is a note that sounds exactly the same. You're going to finger it the same on your instrument, but it's going to be written 2 different ways, on the staff and by the letters. So here, the example would be C sharp and D flat are inharmonics. Our black keys aren't where all of the sharps and the flats live, though. We have some that are on the white keys as well. Let's take a look at the white key inharmonics. So here's an example between E and F. As you can see, there's no black key in between them. So if I start on the F and I move down the keyboard a half step, it's going to be on my E, which is also going to be F flat. If I start on the E and I wanted to move up the keyboard a half step, it's going to be E sharp, also known as F. So these are my white key inharmonics. Now, the distance between any of these notes is called an interval. The half step is the smallest interval in Western music. When we put 2 half steps together, we're going to get a whole step. And that is, an example would be from C to D, or maybe F to G. If I started on my E, I would have to go 2 half steps, so that would go all the way up to my F sharp. That's an example of a whole step, which is going to lead me to our scales. A scale is a different combination of whole steps and or half steps. A major scale follows a very specific formula. It's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That means you can start on any note on your keyboard, follow this formula, and boom, you have yourself a major scale. There are a couple rules. 1, you can't repeat any of the letters in the musical alphabet going up or coming back down. Number 2, you can't skip any of the letters in the musical alphabet. And number 3, a major scale can only have sharps or flats. They cannot have both. So let's try one out. Let's start on our F. So moving up a whole step from F, I'd get my G. Another whole step, on to A. Now I need a half step, so it's going to be my black key that's up directly above my A. Well, I know I can't repeat any of the letters. That means this has to be my B flat. Moving up another whole step, it's going to take me to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, and then we're going to finish out that scale with a half step, which takes me back to my F. And this is my F major scale. Here's what this scale would sound like. The chromatic scale, on the other hand, is made up of all half steps. You can start on any note, you just can't skip any. When you go up the keyboard, so to the right, you're going to say the sharps. When you come down the keyboard, you're going to say the flats. So let's say I wanted to start on C. I would go C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, so on and so forth. I'd go up to whatever note I wanted to stop on. When I come back down, let's say I stopped at my G. When I come down, I would say G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C. So you see how it was the same notes on the keyboard, but I used the in harmonics. Going up sharps, going down are the flats. And that is the chromatic scale. Here's what it would sound like. Something that helps us know which notes to play in a piece of music is our key signature. This is located between our clef and our time signature. Our key signature is going to be any number of flats or sharps or nothing at all. If you have nothing, that means you're in the key of C major. That's no sharps, no flats. If you have any flats, you're going to use the order of flats. That's bead, greatest common factor. So here I have an example of a flat key signature. There's 2 flats in the key signature, which means I'm only using those first 2 in my order, B flat and E flat. Now to find the title or the key with these 2 flats, you're going to go to the last one, which is E flat, and then move back to the flat before, and that's going to be the name of your key. So here, my 2 flats, go to that E flat, go back 1, we're going to land on B flat. So the name of this scale or the key is going to be B flat major. Here's another example with some more flat signs. So this time we have 5. So bead, and then that first G. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. So my last one is G flat. I go back 1 flat sign to our D flat. That means this key is D flat major. Now that's just for our flat keys. Moving on to our sharp keys, it's a little bit different. This time the order of sharps is completely flipped. And what I like to use to remember is fat cats go down alleys eating birds. So here's an example of one of our sharp keys. We have 2 sharps in our key signature, so we're only going to use F sharp and C sharp. This time you're going to find that last sharp sign and you're going to go up a half step in the musical alphabet. So let's take a look. My last sharp is C sharp. If you look at your keyboard, you go up a half step. That takes me to my D. That means 2 sharps equals the key of D major. Here's another example. This time we have 5 sharps. So we're going to use fat cats go down alleys. Alleys, A sharp, that's our last one. So find A sharp on the keyboard, move up a half step, and that's the title of our key. So that's going to be B major. 5 sharps, B major. So that's how you figure out the different key signatures based on just the amount of sharps or flats. Now sometimes you'll have those different accidentals, which are sharps, flats, or natural signs that are not in the key signature. Sometimes you'll have those in the music. So take a look at this example. Here we have the key signature in the beginning. It's 2 flats. We've already done this one. We know this is B flat major. As you read through the music, that means that all of the B's are going to be flat and all of the E's are also going to be flat unless there's an accidental. The accidental only lasts for 1 measure. As soon as you get to that bar line, it starts over and it goes back to whatever the key signature says. So let's take a look at this example. We have C, D, E flat, they don't have to put a flat sign in front of it because of the key signature. And yes, that flat sign affects all E's, not just the one on the top. It affects the lower E as well. So we have our E flat. That very next note, it has a natural sign in front of it. Now, if you remember our natural sign, it cancels out whatever flat or sharp is in the key signature. So here we have an E natural. Now we have a bar line which resets to whatever the key signature says. So the next measure has B flat because of the key signature, A, C, and then B natural. Same idea. They put that little natural sign right in front of the B. That means it's going to affect just that one note. And then when it hits that bar line, it starts back over. So that's how we figure out our different key signatures, what our different notes are in our music, and it's super important that you always check that key signature before you start playing. That's all the review I have for you today. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.